this, man? 26?
26, yep.
All right, we're back to the FPL Script. Live again with another season review with our special guest for the second time running. We brought him here because we thought last season the pod did really well. We were probably the highest median ranked podcast around. This year we're probably the worst, so we thought, why not bring someone who's also performed poorly? And we'll bring in the legendary Markku. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well now that the season is over, especially. And thanks for having me again. A little bit different circumstances than last season, so interesting, a little bit different take this year.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just briefly. I mean, I look, most people who have been on socials are roughly aware of how you've performed this year. Unfortunately, I think this graph pretty much epitomizes it. You've had a really good season, achieved a lot more points than Prime on paper, but then you've yeah, somehow crept below the Formodillo line as well. So yeah, I mean, how has the season been? Any sort of takeaways, I guess, just on a high level?
Well, season and overall it's been just like constant swallowing, I would say. Like week after week, like just swallow more and more, and it got a little bit tiresome. Not gonna lie, because it was like a constant slog. It wasn't like highs and lows. It was just straight up going down almost every week. So it was pretty depressing season. So like overall, like it wasn't a fun season. Like I saw people tweeting that, wow, this is a very fun season overall, and I think, oh, are you fucking kidding me? This is just, this is a horrible season. Like I'm suffering here. Like, so I definitely don't want another one like this. But I've had fun on like Twitter, like making jokes about it and group chats and like complaining about the variance and stuff like that. So that's been fun. But the game itself, it's been just a constant like stream of.
Also, you did pretty well in fan team, right? So I mean that should offset some of the pain there.
Yeah, I made some profit, nothing like like super a lot, but at least something. So I'm happy about that. But it's weird, like I don't know why, but for some reason, like I have this fan team, multiple teams, and their players score. But if I don't have them in FPL, it feels like shit. Even though that's the game where like money is involved. But somehow FPL is the game that brings out the emotions in me. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been playing it for such a long time, and maybe because I had a good run. So I was hoping it would continue, and when it didn't, it felt worse probably. But like logically, I should be more happy about the fan team season. But I don't know. I just feel FPL is the emotional game for me.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if Fran, I don't know if I mean you guys also are pretty involved in gaming, but this sort of graph reminds me of Diablo or Assassin's Creed. I don't know if you guys look at like the Steam chart. This is like one of those where it just like the user count just keeps. It sort of stabilizes on the weekend, then it goes down, then it sort of like stabilizes back on the weekend, then it goes down. So this sort of reminds me of that.
For me, it reminds a little bit online poker when I used to play like years ago.
Okay.
I've never, yeah. So it had like I had a similar run. Like the EV looked pretty good, but I was doing horrible, and that actually caused me like mentally. I started to play worse, and I had a bad run. I wasn't like. That's when I knew I like couldn't be like a real poker professional, because the losses affected me so much that I knew I didn't have it in me, that like affected my performance. But in FPL, it's a little bit different. I felt like I've been like able to keep up with the performance, even though the luck has been bad. But the day when I used to play poker, I couldn't do it. But the graph reminds me of a little bit of that time as well.
That's cool. I mean, I guess, do you feel like you've been on tilt decision making wise this season, or has it really just been much the same, but then actually the outcomes just doesn't correspond?
Honestly, yeah, I've made mistakes this season, like no doubt about it. But I make mistakes every season. But yeah, overall outcome is just has been way different. So I don't think I've made any more mistakes than I usually do. So I didn't go to tilt like ever. And maybe poker is the thing that you have like until the next deadline. You have time to cool down. But in poker, like you might maybe you just kept playing. You just kept playing and playing, and you lose another buy, and you just keep going. It's easier to tilt in that case. And in FPL, you have time to cool down. So I don't think I like in my decision making went on tilt at any point. I think I tried my best every week, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, that's fair. Any sort of specific points in the season that kind of stick out to you?
Well, I started pretty bad. If you look at my Gameweek 1 team, it's pretty embarrassing, to be honest. It has it has
just kind of read it out?
Yeah. I don't know. I can read it out the whole team as well, but I think the usual
highlights. Right?
The ones
we need the main suspects. Yeah.
Yeah, the main suspects I have are Kwanzaa, Unku, and Armstrong. So that's a pretty horrible trio there. So that's pretty embarrassing to even say out loud, to be honest. And it feels embarrassing to tell that those players were in my Gameweek 1 team, and then I complain about bad luck, because that sounds like I just had a skill issue, to be honest. But I promise, like rest of the season, I played better.
Hey, at least you didn't wildcard into Armstrong in Gameweek 3, right?
Yeah, some people actually did it, and it worked out. Let's not name any names, but some players quite high up in the research rankings did that. But
yeah,
you don't have to name them. But anyways, and I can't talk shit about them. I'm now like research ranked 500 after this season, or maybe worse. I don't know. But anyways,
where did you finish in MD rank in mins? It was quite high, right?
Yeah, in minutes. Real minutes, I finished 37. So that's actually pretty interesting that my minutes rank was way better than my xMins rank. My xMins rank was 186. So that tells me that I got the minutes pretty right, but the players were on the pitch, but they just didn't do anything. They just they got EV, but they didn't got points. So I think that's just unfortunate and bad luck. And I'm happy with those ranks, especially with me going for free hit 36.
True.
So I didn't get a double. I was hoping for a double there, and I thought it was worth the gamble because my rank was really poor, and being 36 free hit was looking very good in solves. Even if there was like one double, it still was very competitive. So I thought it was worth the risk, but it didn't come true. So that hurt my MD ranks a little bit. If I would have just gone for the basic free hit 34 strategy, but that's another like bad outcome that I can't really help. It was a risk I took, and whatever.
So if I can read this correctly, I think 34 was your biggest drop, like in terms of relative performance, right? So that sort of underlines the point that you tried to go for something which was a differential EV strat, even though it was probably close on EV, but it went horribly wrong.
Yeah, it went pretty much as bad as possible. So every free hit player returned except the ones that I had in my team already. So it's just one of those game weeks, and luckily at that point, like it hurt, but it didn't hurt that much because I already knew that like the season was going down the drain. So it wasn't that bad of a blow mentally. If that had happened earlier in the season, it would have hurt way more. But it was pretty funny actually to see like looking at the results and looking at the games live, and you see that okay, that free hit player returned. Okay, that free hit player returned. At least Trent hasn't done anything. Oh, in the end he got a return. Okay, that's fine. Then next one does something, and then next one. It's actually pretty funny to follow through. But that's just you can't help it. That happens. And last game week, last season, I think it was 34 as well. That was the interesting week.
But it wasn't actually the popular week, was it? So like I think that's why it's feels like it's hurt a lot more. But I also think the outcomes coming out of 34 were quite mad in terms of like Villa defense doing so well, City defense doing so well, things like that. Seemingly
all kinds of attacking returns everywhere.
Exactly, and it's like if I remember 34 last week, that was a huge, big bad Nedvar week for me. But it was like I didn't feel like I was behind the curve in terms of what my team looked like outcome wise coming out of 34. Like I had pretty good weeks coming out of that, even though I didn't even wildcard. Like I took a -16 right after that, so it went well, right? But I think and the same can probably be said for most people who didn't do that. But then this season it's just it almost feels like you go through a strategy. There's certain players that kind of are tangential to it, and they also did well at the end, very much like Guardiola. That's why I kind of compared Aston Villa defense to it, to Guardiola last season. You just either you had them and you had like 15 pointers from Konsa, or at least a goalkeeper who's consistently putting out points, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah,
How's your
except when
season, JD?
the 1 week, except the 1 week I needed him, which was Gameweek 38
Oh, right.
for Emi Martinez.
Yeah, well, you did.
So,
I mean, he
yeah.
did you a favor, I guess. You ended the season on a high, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
did finish the season above Wolves, right? So Kuna could also feel good about joining us. He was joining a team which finished above Wolverhampton Wanderers in the league table. Yeah, but other than so, I think even Kuna is such an interesting case, right? Because I kept thinking Kuna's minutes might not be great. He's just come back from the suspension. He's probably going to leave, and so why would they give him minutes? And 34 was the only week where he got good minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's literally what happened, which is just incredible, isn't it?
And I was thinking, I was so close to going Welbeck. And the only reason I didn't is because I just thought if I don't go Kuna and he goes wide, which he often does, I mean, he has overperformed by an insane amount this season. So I was thinking if that happens, I'm just going to be mad at myself, and that's exactly what happened. So it's not even about like a good decision making. It's just luck. It's so much variance. It's crazy. Even the times that it did go our way. So I was talking to Markku before we started the stream about assistant manager. And Markku got 48 points from 3 weeks, right, Markku? And I got 56. And Fran got 44. So we are on like, I think the fringe, we must be around 3 sigma, plus 3 sigma when it comes to like assistant manager points from 3 weeks. And even then, that has like contributed almost nothing to at least Markku and mine season. At least you can say that you only had a bad end to the season, but up until that point, you were doing pretty well. You were like top 100K for a large part. So for us, I mean, I just can't believe that it's gone so badly, even though you can see these pockets of insane positive variance.
Yeah, I think, I mean, with the approach we play, in theory, our team is better than most people. But if I remember this season, it just feels like there are certain players who are popular who get holes, and if you bought them at that right time for 5-7 weeks, you would have got a good increase in rank. And if you somehow bypass them by maybe owning, let's say, the alternative pick or an alternative pick, you were just demolished. And I'm sure, I think you guys both share that in common, right? Like, to an extent, obviously, you didn't feel it so bad, but you went Raul, right? When a lot of people made that Salah Cunha move, maybe around Gameweek 8, around that territory.
Yeah, that's another like coin flip that went wrong. Like, that's a really close decision for me which way I should go. I was really considering Kuna for sure, but I didn't know that like he's another like Satan's favorite. He's just gonna keep returning. Like I just didn't like him and Chris Wood pretty much part of that club. So I don't know. And I remember the talk was like he's great at bonus and he's more of an XA guy, stuff like that, and he has pens, okay. And he just kept scoring goals like left and right, and Raul does nothing. Like he just jogs there for 70 minutes and then he gets hooked, and it was a really painful time at the season. And that was the time of the season when I still like cared. I still like cared about the outcomes, but I don't know. It was one of those coin flips. There were so many this season that went wrong that I can't even count properly.
No, but the thing is, it's not even that, right? So Chris Wood was doing the same thing. He was jogging for most of the game, but it's just that every single shot he was getting off ended up in the back of the net. So you can't even like legislate for that. That's kind of an insane hot streak.
Yeah, I feel like I think, did you guys both have Calvert-Lewin when like all the others cheap forwards were returning? Yeah, that's one. There's a few Gameweek decisions that were legendary times.
I went NDI directly because I didn't have enough free transfers, so I skipped that. But again, but
he's talking like the initial Wood run, right?
Oh, you're talking about that?
Oh, the initial,
I thought later on when they got the double.
The later one was actually worse, but probably more so for me. Yeah, that was painful. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you look at the course of the season, it's like you're getting slow greens, but you just know the rest of the field is just picking up more points, even though you're actually accumulating more MD over the course of it. And then that negvar. So what, you finished 0.6%? Where did you actually finish in terms of the Elite 1000 for like negvar?
0.6%, and
Yeah.
God bless those few who were unluckier than me.
Who did worse?
And
so I guess
I don't know who those guys are, but
yeah,
well, 5 players. I don't know who those are, but poor souls. So, and on points wise, it was minus 188.9 points. So it's not good.
Yeah. Oh well. JD, how about your season? Obviously, there's a huge inflection point, which is the Salah Cunha week, right?
Yeah, so I was going through all my tweets and I found I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky, but I did tweet out that every single line the review was showing was dribbling Holland to Salah plus a striker. It didn't matter who the striker was, and I just said I forgot what I said, but I just tweeted out something along the lines of, "Oh well, I mean, it's such an obvious decision that reviews pushing me towards that." And at that point, I think it was already because Salah had hauled against Arsenal and Chelsea, and I forgot there's one other game that he scored. And then I was thinking, okay, it's game week 10. Maybe there's a scope to sort of bet against him for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I rolled and I kept rolling because I every single week up till game week 14, I had 3 free transfers. So I kept just making sure I had enough free transfers. And then by that point, Salah scored so many points that I thought, okay, now instead of going Salah, I need to go for like Saka plus Palmer. And that's sort of going to be my bet. But again, it's not an EV positive move, which is, I think, the one thing that always will stick out this season, which is that I intentionally made moves that had only one objective function, which was to maximize rank gain. And so usually what we do when we are solving is we are maximizing expected points gained. And so, not gained, but expected points. So it's such a different objective function that obviously review cannot solve for that. And so I was just trying to eyeball it because there is no other way to look at or anticipate what moves other people are going to make in the field who are near my rank, and then sort of maybe get ahead of them in terms of transfers by bringing them in, those players in. So it just got to a place where my objective function was no longer something very like tangible, like you and Markku did this season, because both of you have exceptional data ranks, which means that at least the objective function was always clear, which is try to play as well as you can with the data that you have. And so because once I veered off course, I just veered off course so much that I ended up at 4.8 million rank, I think, which was game week 23, and the doubles dropped. And so then I thought at that point, surely it can't get any worse, because I kept thinking that every single week till I got to 4.8 million. And then I actually thought, okay, now this has to be like the inflection point. And so I just got lucky after that point, because like I was talking about, like 56 points from 3 weeks of AM. I don't think a lot of people got more points than that. I mean, of course, you can find people who did, but it's going to be a minuscule percentile. So getting that and then free 34. I think those are the two big things that worked out. But even in free 34, I managed to be on the lower end of the spectrum, because I went, instead of going for Jose Sa, I went for Nick Pope. And so again, lost out on points there. So it's just, it is what it is. At that point, I was just thinking, I just need this season to end. And like Markku said, I was actually also playing a lot more formats than Markku was. So I was also playing Sun Dream Team. I was also playing UEFA Champions League Fantasy. And so for me, all of those things somehow still didn't matter compared to what was happening in FPL, which is so weird. I mean, like Markku said, I just think we are so conditioned by this point to care only about this game that it's so difficult for me to detach myself from it and look at it from a holistic view, where I just look at, okay, at least Fan Team is doing well, or at least Sun Dream Team is doing well, or something like that. So yeah, it was just bad. And then I got 20. What did I send you? Like 17 green arrows in 18 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a better way of going about it than Markku's way. I mean, I think Markku also said that, which is at least you get to the bottom of the pit and then you start climbing up, and then it's like positive variance every single week, and then you feel better about it, rather than just sort of not moving for like throughout the season. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
can't believe
I'm
you
not.
beat me. Like that's insane. That's insane. You
Yeah,
beat me. Like
yeah,
you were 4.8
yeah,
million, and I thought at least I'm gonna beat Shad, and like
yeah.
I'm gonna have a horrible season, but at least I'm gonna beat that guy.
Where
And
did
then you
Rob finish?
that fucking rocket ship all the way up and left me in the dust. Insane.
Yeah. It was actually I still couldn't believe it, and it's so funny because if you just raise the bar, like if I buy Salah Kuna and like just raise the floor of the season, it suddenly becomes a good season. So it's so much variance that I just keep thinking a bad season tells it's weird. I mean, of course, people will think it's sour grapes, but I think it tells me more about variance than a positive variance season does. Because when it's positive variance, even though I know it's positive variance, I just don't think about it. I don't think that it's skill on my part beyond the point. We've already discussed it so many times that FPL is such a low skill ceiling game. But I think when it's negative variance, you even realize it more. Like these bouts of negative and positive variance just reinforce the fact that there's so little in your hands. And like Markku said, with poker, the tilt is understandable because it's you who is playing, you who is in charge of making decisions like actually in the game. But this is a meta game, right? So it's not like we can change anything that's happening. So I don't know. I mean, uh, really bad season, but I unlike you guys, I will change the way I played this season. I'm not going to play again the way I played this season. But I
Do you
don't
think
think
you
you
just made
guys
those
need to change
decisions
anything.
like a little bit too early in terms of prioritizing like
Fair,
effective
fair point.
ownership?
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. Maximize. I would say that was part of my laziness.
Mm,
So when you talk about just maximizing rank gain and you sacrifice everything else, I think it's partly due to laziness as well because the quickest rank jump you would get is if
that's
Salah does
true.
badly.
That's true.
And so I would definitely not say that that wasn't a part of my thought process. It may have been a subconscious thought, but it definitely had to be part of my thought process that this is the quickest way to gain rank. Also, in parentheses, this is the quickest way to lose rank. And of course, that's how the way it turned out.
Yeah. Also, Formentilla made that move as well, so that was probably a good idea to swerve.
Yeah, and see, both of us, and it's so weird. Both of us have had exactly the same kind of season for 3 seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And for all 3 seasons, 21, 22, 22, 23, oh, sorry, 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25, it went Salah, no Holland, then a mixture of both, and then Holland, no Salah. And the seasons where we backed one player over the other very clearly went horribly for both of us. So again, I'm not going to take any lessons from that because I think it's all not all, but the majority of it is due to variance. But because I also did not conform to a play style I know works well for the majority of the times, I think even more than usual this season has to be just discarded for me. Like I can't take any lessons per se from this other than something we might talk about, which is price volatility. I think that is a big takeaway from this season, which is unprecedented amount of price volatility that we've never seen before.
Yeah, I can tell you price rises are useless. So yeah, no, I'm kidding. But when did you actually buy back Salah?
The double, the 24.
Yeah, so that's one of your
Yeah,
seasons.
so I bought him in 2023. I think they lost to Forest 1-0 the week I bought him. So I was again furious because that was the 1 week I could have backed against him and at least gotten something out of it. So,
Yeah, I do remember
but I
that.
had to buy him. Yeah, I had to buy him. And then Wildcard 2, I was so desperate to back against him, but I had to buy him because Holland got injured. Where was the money supposed to go?
The options were
So,
poor.
Same for me.
Yeah. I know Markku would have definitely done it because Markku also went for a differential chip strategy. So, no Salah was such a no-brainer at that point. I mean, if you wanted to gain rank, yeah. And for me, that would have actually been like a consistent season. Where, okay, at least if I'm doing badly, I'm just, sort of seeing it to completion and then I'm binning that strategy forever. Like, I won't do it again. But at least I know for a fact that this is how it would transpire. But because I went Salah in the end for 30 to 38, I can't even say that, or I can't even claim that I was consistent throughout the season.
Fair.
Yeah.
This is my season. A little bit different to you guys both. Because I was
That's
pretty
a roller
lucky.
coaster.
Yeah, I guess I had a similar strategy to Markku, to be honest, for most of the season, I'd say. Because even like I think the choice to ignore free at 34 is stemming from the same decision making, I suppose.
I think they're very similar strategies, like overall.
Yeah, I think so we wild carded on 6 or 7? 7?
Six at least for me.
Was it 6? Are we sure?
Yeah,
for me it was 6 at least, yeah.
Okay,
That
maybe
was
7 was the week where Yeah.
No, Fran, you can see it here. It's 6 in the graph.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just an idiot. But and then obviously that looked pretty bad because I think we had just invested to Haaland when he decided to stop scoring goals. And then we had to pivot back into Salah, which fortunately I did, and I did it with Cunha, and then it was just really good for a long time. Up until around the AM window, I think that's when my season pretty much just collapsed on itself. There were a couple of weeks already where I think this season I definitely jumped on not captaining against Salah a lot. And I think even during that period I was already within pause VAR territory, so you can't really see, I guess, the hits. But then like all those like drops in those points are mostly, I think, related to not captaining him. And I think the run that he had was absolutely ludicrous. But did I continue captaining against him in chances wherever I took them? I think I did. So is there a lesson to be learned?
Trossard and Palmer, right?
Yeah, Trossard, Palmer twice, right? Palmer versus Ipswich, Palmer versus Leicester, Trossard versus...
No, Leicester and Southampton and Leicester, right?
No, it was Ipswich. Ipswich away.
Okay.
Because
Leicester was the other
against,
one, that's for sure,
yeah, Salah was against West Ham, and he went crazy that game, to be fair, so that wasn't a good Christmas. And then Salah versus City, like 2 touches, 1 goal, 1 assist. When Trossard, and I think obviously Markku here, he owned Odegaard at the time, so but it's things like that, right? And it's just like, I think when I look at a season like this, and I have a season like this, all I can really say is that sometimes you make a 50-50 type decision at some point in the season, and it just completely sends you on a different trajectory. And to be fair, it's like when I started the season, I thought I was going to have a bad season in general, especially after like my first wildcard one went poorly. And then so quickly you make like one move in 1 week, which was for me, Salah and Cunha, and then suddenly I'm shooting up. And then there were 2 other points later in the season that kind of very much ruined the season for me. Not in terms of like my ability to really gain MD, but just like the choice of strategy that I made. So I had kind of rushed the DCL move 1 week before the double game week for Everton, just because it was kind of EV positive then already. And I think I was just buying into Liverpool versus Southampton, if I believe. So I bought into Alisson, which was nice, but then obviously the doubles came in, which then also meant that it was an amazing assistant manager window because it was a double. And I thought, okay, there's not going to be any other double for the rest of the season, which will actually prove to be wrong. So, thanks to the Premier League for all their scheduling madness this year. But because of that, like I felt I was so forced into an AM. I then -4'd out of Bruno into Trossard, legendary player, and that was it. Like that sent me spiraling, because I did things like, and a week previous I had bought into DCL, had to -4 out of him into NDIA because he was injured. So like I think the mistake, if I ever made one this season, was probably buying DCL a week early when I probably should have anticipated more fixtures scheduling sort of impacts. That I think is a genuine mistake. But then just that choice of, I don't know, let's say buying Trossard over Bruno, I don't think it's actually a mistake, because I had Trossard for like 8 weeks and 90 literally like 95 minutes played every single match, playing up top sometimes, left wing sometimes. Didn't matter, because at the end of the season you see Trossard play the same amount of minutes, if not worse, and then he's scoring 2 goals, 1 goal, 1 assist, things like that. And obviously the week where I free hit, I ignored him. But like it's things like that that just kind of tell me, you make that decision, you're kind of a tree branch, you kind of you're like starting off in a certain path, and then the kind of range or your ability to sort of move flexibly is very much just limited by where you start off, and it's just a sequence of decisions. And so, yeah, I made a bad decision over DCL, and then I think, but you can see the MD looks pretty okay. But I think I probably took the chance of getting maybe like a top 10 MD season, because I remember at that time before I made that move, I was like, I think top 10 on both ranks, and I obviously had an extremely high price team. Like I had 105 team value or 106 at one point. I can't remember. So I was like farming price rises. I thought I was going to have a good season, but yeah, it didn't turn out to be the case. I then, yeah, sort of sold myself out of Bruno when he was hauling versus Arsenal and things like that. Leicester as well. And then the rest of the season, I pretty much just made decisions. And then on wildcard 30, I think I went Clivert as well. So, shout out to Areola for being an absolute rat for that. Apparently fatigue means you can't play 4 weeks straight of football. So then I think I lost MD Mins there for sure. But was it a bad decision? Like, I think it was risky, but I don't think it was like bad, because I kind of ran a lot of sims with him missing, potentially 2 game weeks, and it still looked like really EV positive versus like competing options, things like that. And as it turns out, it just doesn't go your way. And I think this season is more like, there were probably a lot of good competing picks that we didn't pick most of the time, and they did extremely well. And then the picks that we went, who probably had a fair bit of MD, sometimes better, just did absolutely nothing. Like even at the end of the season, like, did I have any reason to go Semenyo? No, because I had a really strong squad of 7 players, and people who just had a slightly worse squad, like they, might have been in danger of fielding Eze versus Liverpool, suddenly made a move, and I had no move to make in attack, so I made a move on defense instead. And it's just, a constant stream of that. I've never had like pause VAR swing to neg VAR. I've always had pause VAR, so it's a bit humbling, but it's a good lesson learned. And there's nothing really to be learned, kind of like what you said. But I guess I'll just have to hope I get consistently lucky.
Yeah, your graph is probably like, it's more depressing than mine, because your graph like gave you hope of a great
it did. I really thought I was gonna have a good season. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think
also because triple
guys,
captaincy, Fran. I think triple captaincy also made a lot of difference, because Holland Gameweek 2, and then we waited for like almost towards the end of the season, and I got 11 points and Markku got 4 points, right?
True.
Yeah, Marmouche.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's not like we had Salah obviously Gameweek 24 was the biggest triple captaincy, which was 29 points. But other than that, and then I think he followed it up with 24 or something similar. Like he had 2 huge back-to-back hauls. But I don't think anyone would have captained him in 25, because you either had AM active or you already had triple captained him by that point. So it's realistically just that 29 pointer, I think, which was the competing one. Other than that, I think triple captaincy 2 was great on real points and also on
that's
easy.
True. Yeah, I mean the free hit I think was the most painful, because it's like suddenly I just didn't invest into players who also got points after the free hit and in between as well. Like if I can make a case in point, it's like no one owned Trippier as their differential on wildcard 30. Everyone was poor. They owned Livramento. They got Livramento points. They got Murphy points as well, even though he was playing 65 minutes a game. And I don't care. Sorry, Murphy's minutes are just inherently bad, but he was a good pick on a lot of drafts, even on those poor minutes, and that's fine. All I'm saying is suddenly the week when people actually get to make the right decision, they go free hit into Trippier and he bangs in 2 assists. The only week where I, as someone who owned Trippier for most of the time, who was like 0.1% owned, everyone owns him on the free hit. So it's just like things like that are just funny. And that's the season. And as you were saying, Mark, I mean, it's like having hope is kind of destructive in the end, because it's kind of. But it does make for a slightly better content creation, because I probably didn't have to explain why I was having such a bad season up until Game Week 22. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for this year, is that hope is never good. So don't have hope.
It would have been easier if I just, people just stopped watching my videos for the whole season, really. I could have just known I was just going to do it poorly. But yeah, one thing we actually did want to touch on, I think, and it kind of goes back to my point of, we sometimes, let's say, make certain decisions, but they don't really, I think, severely influence the rest of your season too much. Like we wanted to talk about Game Week. Actually, we'll save that for last. But we want to talk about Game Week 1, right? I pulled up my Game Week 1 draft. It's a pretty bad draft, or maybe not. It has Dunk actually, who I think, in hindsight, honestly, what a horrendous person. I hope he doesn't play football again. But and Nkunku and Kwanzaa, were huge problem points. I mean, you had him in your draft as well, Markku. But I just think, the obsession almost is like to go back and say, why did we fail the season? Was it because of our Gameweek 1 draft? And I really just don't think it is. Because we do make a couple mistakes each season. Okay, maybe we don't usually make 2-3 mistakes at the start of the season, but I don't know. When I look at this draft, I think, maybe I should have just gone Rodgers, because it's like it was a bit of a no-brainer at the time. But even Nkunku is probably the overarching skill issue. But is it so horrible a draft? I don't think so. And then suddenly, the rest of the season kind of devolves. What do you guys think?
But Fran, again, the thing is, which I think we've discussed a lot during the course of the season. So I did not have Nkunku, I did not have Kwanzaa in my team, because I firmly believe that their X-Mins weren't great. Again,
fair play. Totally fair.
It would have taken one half of good football from Kwanzaa to prove me wrong. If he had gotten more ball recoveries or whatever slot gave the reason to then permanently boot him out of the team. If that had duels, yeah, that's the word exactly.
He lost some duels,
Yeah,
never
he
to
lost
be
some
seen
duels.
again.
Wow, that's kind of crazy, right? And so I'm never going to claim that that's purely a good decision.
No, I think it's a terrible decision. I'm just saying it doesn't have a significant influence on like some of the outcomes that we have. Is all I'm asking.
No. I'm saying that even though I avoided Kwanzaa and Nkunku, I had such a bad season. Yeah. So that actually proves your point, which is even if you do end up making good moves on real minutes, it still doesn't matter in across 38 weeks. And then the other thing was I avoided Armstrong, which coincidentally the three of us went for a different 5.5 million striker. So I went for Muniz, Markku went for Armstrong, and you went for João Pedro. So the two of us, I think, and usually I would not say this because I think there are a lot of factors in play, but in this one I can definitely say that looking back at it, João Pedro, with whatever minutes he was going to get, was probably the better play purely on team strength. Because I don't think any one of these players had minutes locked. But I think Markku's explanation also makes sense where he was saying that he was always transferring Armstrong out. So if he already had a plan for him, I guess that makes it a little less egregious. But for me, I didn't have a plan for Muniz because I was thinking he is the first choice. He did start the first couple of games. But then again, the volatility of 1 or 2 mid games and he's out of the team was always something that existed. It's not like Raul Jimenez was just not a player or he was never going to get minutes, especially in the international break. Like I think he scored a free kick for Mexico.
He did,
in the first international break, and then I think that also sort of built momentum for him in the team. And then when he came back, he just started the first game when he came back. So I think that is something I can definitely look back and say maybe there's a different decision to be made there. But other than that, I don't know. Because again, with Eze, all three of us owned Eze in Gameweek 1. We should have had the goal against Brentford. I will never forget that. That's like such a bad thing. And I mean, how can you legislate for that? Was it Sam Barrett? I don't know. Maybe it was Sam Barrett. But it was the worst decision I've seen.
That's the thing. They should have discounted Bruno's goal versus Arsenal. That's what I'm saying. I'm joking, but
fair enough.
Actually, I've got a question on Gameweek 1. So next season, obviously, like we've had the experience of having the 5 free transfers now.
Yes.
Would you guys? Do you guys think you drafted differently now that you've played a full season? Like, sorry, do you guys think you drafted poorly in Gameweek 1 now that you have a full season's experience of what 5 free transfers feels like? Like, do you guys plan to roll up to 5 free transfers instantaneously? What's your kind of thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I think the mistakes that I made, like I'm probably not gonna repeat, like Kwanzaa.
Yeah,
like Kwanzaa.
I agree.
He was like a straight up mistake. But even if the worst case scenario was even worse than I expected him to at least play 1 game, and if he doesn't play after that, then okay. But he didn't even do that. He played half a game. Armstrong, another mistake, I would say, probably. But that was just a skill issue from my part.
He did play 2,800 minutes in the championship. or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's why I thought, because the plan was to hold him for 3 game weeks and then go to Joao Pedro.
But I guess that's the
So
point,
I was
right?
expecting.
It's like, were we not? Did we maybe plan too many transfers at this? Should we almost like go for a draft where we have no
too many
transfers?
like risky picks, like
yeah,
I think too many risky picks for me. So I don't think I'm gonna do that. And Kunku for me, like,
hard to say. Yeah,
I'm probably gonna fall. Yeah, I'm probably gonna fall for that trap again. Not for Nkunku, but like a similar player.
No, he doesn't want you to be trapped into him.
Yeah, really not. But if there's a similar case, like player with some upside, I guess I think I might go for like one player like that. Yeah, otherwise, I think I don't want to book transfers beforehand. I'm gonna look to roll, and if I have to use it on that one player, then that's fine. But otherwise, I think I look to roll more than
I'm with you, because I think almost the reason why I went Joao Pedro was exactly to try and avoid that, like to ignore an early transfer for Armstrong into Joao Pedro. But then obviously I say that whilst I own it, Kwanzaa and Kunku in my team, so it doesn't look so good. But then like when I think about it next season, it's almost like inevitably one of the picks that we think is like a surefire thing is probably going to turn poor. Not to mention that injuries still exist, etc., etc. So I feel like next season I'm going to try do the same thing again, but hopefully not start with a skill issue. I did actually really enjoy buying Rico Lewis on Gameweek 2 though. Like I was really happy with that decision because he played a lot of minutes. Unfortunately, he played for a lot of minutes for a really poor Man City team for a long time. But
that's one of the like big mistakes that I think for myself is that I didn't do the transfer. Probably one reason was because I had Armstrong and I had that plan to move him out for game 3, right. So I didn't.
Oh, I see.
So I had one less transfer because I had booked one ahead. So that's probably a mistake. That's why Armstrong was a mistake, and I felt it was a mistake not selling Kwanzaa for Rico Lewis, especially hindsight when we saw how much his price dropped.
Yeah.
Like I didn't expect it to drop that much, and it really caught me off guard. Like I was expecting maybe 0.1, 0.2, but it just kept dropping like every week. So I didn't expect that. So next season I'm gonna be more careful with my picks, I think, so that I don't fall into these traps and lose team value and stuff like that.
So I think based on the new rules and observations from this season, one more question I think for the two of you, which is what free transfer value were you using for Game Week 1, and are you going to change that based on what we've seen? Because my big concern was if I sort of overrate or I inflate the value of an FT this season, and I start solving and get completely robust teams that don't need to be touched for 3-4 weeks, and the field doesn't do it, ultimately it doesn't matter how much EV I get, because it's ultimately the field that I have to play against. It's not like we are playing for EV in a vacuum. So in that sense, I think this season was probably a little exploratory, just to see how many people, on average, how many FTs people stack up, and how patient people are. And I think people have actually been very patient compared to what I thought it would be. Like I've often seen people, and maybe we can get the stats on that, how many free transfers were saved every week on average, because maybe the percentile can tell us a story, right? The percentile on how many free transfers we had on average.
Yeah, so don't ask me.
Yeah. So that maybe is something. So do you guys think you're going to change the values you're using for solving for Game Week 1?
I don't know.
I honestly, in the first place.
The thing is, I don't even remember what I was using Game Week 1.
Okay.
Probably had it
around 2.
A little bit higher, I imagine. Yeah, I imagine it was around 2 for me as well.
Yeah.
Maybe tried some solves it even more than that, but then I somehow still ended with Armstrong. I don't know how that happened. But anyways, I'm sure I used a little bit higher than because of the rule change, and I wanted to roll both. I think around 2 was in Game Week 1. So I don't know if I'm gonna change it or not next season. I haven't really thought about it, and honestly, I haven't really thought about that after this season ended. So I'm trying to mental reset a little bit.
Detox.
I'm trying to detox from this game, but I'll see that when the chat begins again, when the prices are known and stuff like that. I think that's when I'm gonna put more thought into it. But do you have any thoughts on it?
So I think more than, or maybe as much as the free transfers itself, the price volatility is something that might drive me to increase FT value, because now it's, you might have to transfer a player out just to preserve team value, not for expected value, because expected value will come later, which is an intangible today. It will materialize 5 weeks down the line or 10 weeks down the line, because what happened to you with Kwanzaa happened to me with Brereton Diaz. It happened to me with Kelleher. I lost like zero point 0.6 or point no 0.4 million on Kelleher
True.
and
Yeah.
0.4 million on Brereton Diaz. So I also experienced a similar volatility, which was completely unexpected, because just like you, my thought was, okay, Brereton Diaz has lost his place. I'm just going to bench him, and that's going to be the end of that. But because I kept hemorrhaging team value every single week, I ended up in a place where I honestly, my expected value ceiling was lower than someone like France, just because of the inability to get a team together at that point, which was competitive EV wise.
Fair. I don't know. One thing that I thought in terms of FT is like, I'm probably going to like stop looking at free transfers from that perspective as much as I did this season. I think I kind of think high FT values are kind of pointless anyways. It's really just more about when you make moves and whether you actually think you'll foresee like crazier shifts. Like when I made my DC on Allison move, like 1 week before the actual Liverpool double and before the double was announced, I felt pretty bad because I think there was still probably a 10 to 15% chance that I should have understood that maybe some crazy fixture announcements could have come. And then I still like pulled the trigger on a move despite, you know, like right at that moment in time, I remember I had 2.5 FT value and it was still optimal. So I was like, yeah, this is the right move, 100%, you know. But then looking back at it, it was just like, you know, the landscape changed so much that it was actually kind of even pointless for me to even have an FT. Like I should have just not even made a move then. And I don't think like FT values can quite capture that perfectly. Whereas for the rest of the season, I'll be honest, I'm super aggressive with FT value. You know, I love transfers. I hate rolling. And I think I was actually able to accumulate like a lot of MD anyways through that sort of approach and play. So I'll probably still do that very aggressively. But then, yeah, if there's ever going to be like fixture probability issues, and I think that's why I approached free at 33 in the way that I did, because I was like almost like running way too many souls for different outcomes. And then I, you know, looked at maybe like, let's say the outcome that probably would have hurt me the most. Like, let's say if Nottingham Forest won in the FA Cup, that sort of thing, which ended up with me getting Nico Williams in my solve, right? Not that I'm saying that means anything, because it was like a 50-50 truly between him and Konsa, and I just happened to a Nico. But my point being just, yeah, I'll have to just manage mentally the idea that I would want to have to roll, as opposed to just look at a solver and outputs in those kind of decision-making windows. For the rest of the season, though, I think I'll be just trying to accumulate as much price and team value as possible, and then just make good moves for good players that play good minutes, and that's it.
Yeah, but you bring up an interesting point, and this I think goes along with the first two, which is the rule changes and also price volatility, which is now we know for a fact that fixtures are also volatile. They're much more volatile than they've ever been. And so relying on someone like Planet FPL or Ben Krellin might not be enough, because no
That's
one
true.
knows when they will actually fall, or Tala. So that is something that, like you said, is not going to be captured in FT value. But I think it like maybe the point is just to have as much FTs as you can when you have
that's exactly
equivalent EV paths, and that actually makes a lot of sense, and that's something I will definitely try to stick to. But I've often not been accused, but I've often thought to myself that maybe I am a little passive sometimes, just to like accumulate free transfers. So that might actually end up being a good strategy, just because of the volatility, and also because there are a record number of teams in Europe this season, next season, sorry, from the Premier League. So there's even more scope for this stuff to happen, which is you expect less doubles, but you end up with these weird kind of double game weeks. Forget about the storm that came about that disrupted Liverpool versus Everton, but all the other stuff, right? It's still happening. So we thought there would be less doubles, but there are actually weirder double game weeks this season, and that might actually continue next season.
Yeah, I don't really see myself maybe having 5 free transfers at any point of
Yeah,
the
same. I
season.
don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah, that seems very unlikely.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I haven't even gone into 4, so
I don't even know if I did either. Maybe 3 was the maximum. No.
I feel like there was probably never a single game week where I had 3. Well, actually, there's never consecutive game weeks where I had 3 transfers. I did touch 3 once or twice, but yeah, most of the time I think as soon as I got to 2, there was probably always like a good pair of moves that I could always make, and I always made them. And
yeah, it's about the timing when to roll and when it's important to have transfers when there's uncertainty and stuff like that. So that's probably more important than just randomly having 5
exactly,
transfers available. So.
Like if I ever look to have 5, it'll be around then, like that first, I guess, potential double game week fixture window. Because I think, to be fair, at the end of the season, actually, I do feel like our fixture predictors got a pretty good handle of the end of the season. But that middle part of like when we got surprised Liverpool, I don't think that was really like, it was discussed as like a mere possibility. Like, just like, for example, how I can stop talking and I'll drop dead right now, you know, that type of possibility. And I'm alive, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something that's pretty interesting. Any other closing thoughts?
This stream could have turned really baroque, by the way. I'm just saying that's
yeah, that could have been crazy. Yeah. What a predictor I am. Yeah.
But okay, that's good. But yeah, I was thinking, so based on even that, right? So the rule change where you can now roll through wildcards or roll through free hits and other chips, or these 2 chips basically. So firstly, I think we have to also anticipate another crazy chip next season. Hopefully, it won't be in the middle of the season, because I'm fully prepared to just call this an asterisk season based on my rank, and also because I think overall there were so many things that happened, including, I don't know if you guys remember, but Bruno got a price drop just because they forgot to remove his flag after his suspension ended versus Wolves. And so he dropped in price because they were lazy. And that's such an insane thing when I think about it, which you can fully automate all of this. Nothing has to be done by a person, but it very clearly is being done by a person. So I'm not going to think that it's going to go away all of a sudden, but let's
at
hope
least
that
don't make the chip a mystery. At least let us know what the chip is. Like,
I hate it.
That's just so horrible. Like,
yeah. Also,
I
don't remove Son's assist. Like, come on, guys. What are we doing?
You give it and you give the reason, and like you ruined my trip. Like, I was out of town on a holiday trip, and I even posted gloating about the assist and stuff like that, and then they remove it. And
yeah. Well, that's the funny thing about that, because it's like if the game week didn't have a Monday, we would have been fine. We would have got away with it.
Yes.
That's just silly stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But that's actually a great point, by the way. That's also something that we never knew, like we never experienced before, which is bonus points changing willy-nilly just because there was a Monday night football game.
True.
Or there was a midweek game, which is insane when you think about it. Like, why would you not make it consistent if you wanted to adjust bonus points?
Yeah, also like the amount of
it's pretty annoying
goals and assists that Brian and Boomer had this season. That if Opta had decided slightly differently, I feel like I would have felt a bit better about myself. But alas, it's not to be. Cool. I think that's. Are we good? Or actually, no. We have one thing to do. One last thing.
Yes.
Which is just to congratulate Thomas O'Brien for absolutely smashing the mini league. I think maybe if you can get in touch with us, we can probably organize some sort of prize. So please do. I think he finished, was it 700 something in the world or
797? 797.
Yeah, congratulations. A dream rank.
The cup winner is not worth mentioning, right?
No. We won't talk about cup winners on this podcast because.
Yes.
What do you think?
I mean, we can go through the chat before we quit this. There's a couple of people.
Fair. Yeah. We'll go through the chat. Kitzel, thank you for supporting the podcast all season long. I'll just respond to the second point as well. So Free at 34 was his most disgusting positive variance week with Sessignon. Right at your 8 trips. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was indeed. The Sessignon one actually destroyed me as well because it was like he wasn't even playing up top, and I was like, "What is this?"
And then he returns.
Scoring.
Yeah.
Bro, I already had like a couple of victory laps when I saw the lineup and he was a fullback.
Yeah.
And it was like 90th minute, and I was thinking, I've gotten away with it on free hit, and then it was so bad, man. Honestly.
Kanji, nice
That's
to see
one of the funniest weeks, definitely, in a year.
yeah.
Actually, I think because I've really experienced a bad free hit week in the past. It was kind of like, oh yeah, this again, 3 at 34. But I think I felt even more in pain in the subsequent weeks when whenever, because most people had like a Ruben Diaz or a Konsa, right? As a result of owning 3 at 34, right? You suddenly have like an additional Villa player, an additional City player, because you had to accommodate for 33, which I clearly did with the free hit, where they did nothing. So that made me even more frustrated about that free hit. Like I don't think it. I think in the end it actually ended up being much worse than 3 at 34 last season, where sure, a lot of people scored a lot of points in 1 week, but then that was just that 1 week, right? Didn't really change a lot of people's past in terms of their team structure. So who knows? Let's see.
Markku, when did you bench boost?
Ooh, yeah.
When did I bench boost? I bench boost 32, I think.
Oh, same as me then, because I my bench in 33, 35, and 36 outscored Gameweek 32 bench boost.
I had a 40-point bench at one point this season. 40 points.
Oh, that's insane.
That's insane.
What?
Like, yeah, I had Trent Allison who got a clean. I had Munoz who had
a goal.
He played versus you guys, right? Yeah. I'll just blame all the model. I can't even blame review. I'll blame markets. Blame markets for backing United all the time. I benched Hall versus United. I benched Munoz versus United. Maybe that's a skill issue. But I had I had a strong team. Actually, no. Sorry, it was Munoz versus Villa. Because I had Fulham. Sorry, Fulham. This is such a good podcast, but it's because I had you had him too. You had you had Anderson, maybe Markku, didn't you? Or did you have I had Castagna that week and I played him.
I had Castagna as well. Which week you said?
In the week where they played versus Munoz, and Munoz got a goal and
he got a goal and a clean sheet, I think. Yeah, I think both.
I benched Munoz to play Castagna, which is just so fun. And that was my bench. And I had someone else who scored a goal. So that was 40 points. But I had the AM on, so I was like, good decision making, of course. Yeah. Which is why I kind of hate the AM chip, because it kind of brutalized my season from a NEC-VAR perspective, not from an MD.
Is it 25? Has to be 25, because 26 Palace played Villa and they beat them 4-0. And Markku and I had Glasner AM.
That's exact.
No,
not 25.
No, I messed up again. Wow, what a podcast.
It was 26.
26, yeah, I played.
I had João Pedro 12 points on the bench versus Southampton, because remember, because he was exiled, but then Welbeck just can't stay fit for 2 matches in a row. So I had 40 points on the bench, which was great.
I remember. Yeah, I played him.
Yeah, cool.
My bench boost got my bench boost week was actually one of the rare positive variance weeks. The bench itself didn't do that well. It did 12 points, but the week overall was pretty good, and that was pretty maybe the last good game week of the season.
But did you buy into a Brighton defender?
I bought a shout out to Stupian.
That's the thing. So he got 0 points that week.
Yeah.
So I feel like we had a good week on paper, but it was we just knew it wasn't good enough, because apparently we were never gonna get lucky ever again. So
it's unbelievable. I don't wish like a painful death, but dying peacefully in his sleep. That would be cool.
Yeah.
How can I buy him at Leicester at home? It's 0 points. Brentford away -1. West Ham home 1 point. So,
but that's the great irony of 3 at 34 when Ryan Knight-Nuri gets 14 points, right? Because of a penalty.
Yeah,
save.
that's exactly. Yeah.
This is and
the same Nico Williams as well. Yeah, I forgot that guy too. What a guy. Yeah, sorry, I didn't target Leicester at home enough. Apparently. Just
Estupinan is the same guy, by the way, who absolutely hauled out of his ass against Arsenal 2 seasons ago.
When we didn't.
When everyone owned him, literally.
Yeah.
Did
you guys own Dunk then? I owned Steel, if you remember.
I owned Dunk, I think. I
think I had Dunk as well.
Yeah, fair play. Good decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
Oh my god.
That is that.
Oh my god.
Brandon, thank you for watching. Economist said he sold Holland wildcard 4. Oh right, that's kind of brutal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what do you guys actually think in hindsight now about wildcard 3? Because I think we made a joke about the draft, right, or some people's drafts on wildcard 3, but actually I think the concept of just wildcard 3 in general, like what do you think looking back?
Markku, any thoughts?
Because I think what was the idea, right? It was like structurally we all had Haaland drafts, most of us. So a lot of people went wildcard 3 to move into Salah and Palmer. And
it was a Haaland draft, and I think let's look at history a little bit. My brain is trying to remove trauma from my brain, so I don't remember this pain. But so Gameweek 3. So if you would wildcard Gameweek 3, it would be a Salah draft then.
Yeah. I think so. The point was you moved away from maybe a Haaland Saka type draft to a Palmer Saka Salah draft, right? And I guess the logic is you don't want to spend your first 2 free transfers of the season on that. You build on an early wild card, and then you still have the opportunity to get to 5 free transfers as soon as possible. Which I think is what people like Elevenify achieve.
It's not a bad shout, to be honest.
But I think one thing I guess and my point of asking this is we were probably, because we went wildcard 6 because we were quite drawn into the idea of maximizing MD, I think, which obviously we always do in terms of chip strategy. But do you think we place an over reliance on chip strategy solves to get to that conclusion, or I don't know, or am I just talking?
I think maybe I was like too set on the strategy. Like I had already decided pretty much that that's gonna be the week. But
yeah.
And I think about my team, like it was a bit of a mess because I had Nkunku and Kwanzaa still because I didn't move him early, and I also had Armstrong. So actually, I should have maybe given more thought to like being more flexible. That if the team needs it, then I'm not gonna stick to the plan just because I've decided so.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a good point that I maybe should have been more flexible there because it was like it looked decent, but I had to use transfers.
That's the thing that I'm thinking about. It's like when we look at players like Nkunku and Kwanzaa, it's like I think we still think, okay, we can use our 2 free transfers to fix them. We'll never have issues with the rest of our team. Whereas maybe, I don't know, at that point in the time, was it better for us to just almost use the wild card to set up a really good role?
So you not think that
point actually.
So you guys went wildcard 6, I went wildcard 8. I think for me it was clear that I initially pivoted from Haaland to Salah, which worked out great because I captained Salah in Gameweek 7 against Wolves, I think.
Yeah.
And then I wildcarded Haaland back in for Southampton. So initially I felt that was pretty good, but then now that we are looking at the season after it has ended, again, maybe there's too many use of free transfers. Like maybe it wasn't a great use of pivoting once and then using wildcard to pivot back, because that made me that much more reluctant to do it again when the time came to move on Haaland. So maybe wildcard 3 also lucked out in that sense, but I don't know. As a general strategy, it is so difficult to judge it, right? There's too much like outcome noise now that it's very difficult to.
I'm not saying this because Salah went on a tear, but I'm just like
no, I know, of course,
because we might have drafted so poorly. Did we need to almost prioritize?
I see what you mean.
Racking up free transfers. Just that general concept.
Yeah, I see.
With the state of my team and the bonus of keeping those transfers, it might have been actually a good move for me.
I think that the rolling through a wildcard is something we still need time to get used to, and maybe this season has been enough of a test run. Now that we are fully aware of how we can maximize it, because I think review already has everything programmed, so it's not like we have to do anything outside review. It's just like you said, maybe being open to the idea of running solves for this sort of a wild card early on, and then using
because I feel like
points.
I probably was in the same position as Markku because we ended up doing the same thing. But like I remember I was definitely running solves wildcard 3 and just thought, yeah, this is gonna do nothing because it just had less MD. But then I think, yeah, did I probably end up using a lot of free transfers like early on that maybe I didn't need to do? I guess could be true. So I don't know. Another thing too is obviously Palmer's baselines just moved crazily. Sorry, like after game week 6, like he suddenly became god. So it was almost like maybe I'm just thinking about this because wildcard 3 suddenly also moved into. Like, I don't think people wildcarding on 3 would have anticipated that actually as well. Like, yes, he was very good, but I don't think his baselines were that good. So that's probably also, you know, what stopped us from moving the needle. And then eventually it's just a case of, you know, your evaluation of players, which with 2 game weeks of information maybe just isn't good enough to warrant that structure change. So, yeah, interesting.
Also, by the way, Markku was talking about Estupinian, and shout out, not that I owned him, but shout out to him for conceding 7 goals to Forest and 4 goals to Palmer, because those weeks were also horrible. Like not that he actively destroyed my team, but even passively he did enough for me to remember him.
I do actually, yeah. I think Palmer probably actually did us a lot of negvar in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know him for the 4 goals, 4-goal haul, and we kept the trust in the end of the season, and he did nothing. So he really.
And they got 2 assists in the Conference League final. Legend.
Yeah. What a goat.
Good player. Might actually own him in another fantasy game coming up, but Matt actually had a really good season with that sort of rush strategy, early wildcard to roll 5 free transfers, ended up top 500. And I think that's fair, but I think, as I said, like maybe, you know, to put a counterpoint, it's just that whole idea of like, am I so confident that I know what the best structure is on an early wildcard? I don't know, because it's like, yeah, what if suddenly Palmer gets injured in wildcard 3 and then suddenly, you know, you look a bit stupid, or something like that. Kanji, do you watch football on the weekend to make decisions? I mean, I can answer. I watch pretty much every football match that I can. But it doesn't like, it's like I don't look at, oh my god, this guy is so brilliant because of what he did in a match. I have to kind of change my team up to have him. I just think I'm loosely aware of, you know, when someone's like improving a lot and I think their baselines will grow. I do care quite a lot about that, so I do stay on top of that. But then I also just look back at my own team and just think, are they good enough? Do they compete well enough? And then I probably don't care so much. And most of the reason why I watch football is actually just to get a good understanding of minutes, I feel.
I think that is a huge part of our podcast as well, is we watch football. Like you and I watch at least almost every single game that is on the weekend.
Yeah.
And then the main takeaway from that weekend is, have minutes changed for any player? Has penalty share changed?
Yeah, or kind of general baselines for players radically changed because of a team strength thing, or so like I think I'll, like, you know, we all try to guess directionally where things go, but you know, it's one of those seasons where it's like I can't really explain it, but it's like I'm aware of where team strengths are moving. I'm aware of who's becoming good, who's becoming bad, and suddenly it's actually just not mattering at all because, you know, my decisions aren't related to that somehow, and I just go for the alternative, and it just doesn't quite pan out. Like in previous seasons, I think I've benefited, and I've probably been a bit more aggressive, I think, to choosing players for my own preference, like when I went Anthony Gordon last season, maybe. But I just, like, if I think about things like this season, it's like Forest in the end, I look at their baselines at the very end, or even like Chris Wood's XG, things like that. It's like, actually, I was, you feel pretty comfortable at your decision making, like ignoring Wood. For as much as we did, even though I had him
entirely,
Forest entirely.
Forest on both ends,
in terms of the juju, and it's like, when in theory the baselines don't even matter and they play versus Leicester at home, you see what happens. So that's just football for you. But yeah, Tom, can't believe you missed the start of this, and they have the goat mark on. I think that's Tom Stevenson, right?
Yeah.
So thanks again.
We appreciate Tom watching.
Another legend, to be fair, and congrats on the
absolutely
pretty good season, I think, you know, relative to how
compared to all of us.
we performed. FPL Economist, he had Flecken who's injured, replaced for Verbruggen. Yeah, I do remember that. Just mentioning negative variance. Yeah, I mean, I own Flecken too. If you wanna toot your horn for that game.
Yeah, same. Same.
And then that was also the weekend where Palmer, I believe, hit the crossbar versus Ipswich, and Salah maybe could have scored 3 goals, 3 assists, or something like that. But yeah,
let me give you guys and the watchers what they really want. So.
Hey, let's go.
This is what they really want. I wanted to see. So
the cat streamers.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like my in life and in FPL, like overall, like my mindset is like you have to keep evolving, you know. So like this season, my evolution has been like I've gone from a Hall of Famer to the cat guy. So I'm happy with that. I don't mind it. So
yeah.
I think most people know me as the cat guy now, but that's fine.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good place then. JD, you got any closing thoughts?
I just think, hopefully we'll have better starts to next season, and I'm happy to make this permanent fixture. As long as we are making the podcast, we can have Markku on for the end of the season. Hopefully in better times, because the order last season was flipped, if I remember correctly, as in Markku had the best season. Oh no, actually you had the second best.
No, I
so
think Fran had the best season.
I
had the most luck. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Markku was second on that. So hopefully we'll at least have better seasons than this. At least for Markku and I, it's a very simple request. It's not like I'm asking for the world to have a better season than this one. So hopefully that's going to happen. The bar is now on the floor, at least for me.
Yeah, sure. It can't get worse. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Surely. Yeah. And I don't want to revisit this next season and say it could, and it did. So yeah, hopefully we won't have any stupid chips that we will have to deal with in the middle part of the season or something like that. And as long as that happens, I think we'll be good. But thanks everyone for watching throughout the season.
Will you guys have me on next season if I delete my team right before the last game week?
Ooh.
I mean, for a bit of banter, yeah, why not?
Yeah, honestly. We might have you on the game week you delete your team, because what's the point in keeping it till the end of the season?
That's true, actually, yeah. We'll have to do like an emergency podcast. Like, you're just going to delete the pod. Yeah, you'll delete the team in front of us. Do you actually regret not deleting your team this season? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't delete my season this season.
I don't think so.
No,
because I think deleting your team suddenly puts you into like a 2.x million like assumed rank or something like that. I'm not sure actually, but
yeah, but like whatever. Like I crashed out of like all the good ranks right now anyway, so who cares? I'm not gonna make it back to the top 10.
Where are you on research right now?
Let me check. Probably very impressive rank. Let's see.
Probably top 100 still, right?
Oh no, not a chance. Not even close.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because this season would have the most weightage, right? That's
of course. You have to wait
another
10 years.
Yeah, I cannot even. I have to see the spreadsheet. I think. Where's the spreadsheet?
No, I think
I can see it. I can't see it in top 100. So.
Yeah, you can use the website, and just search.
Can I?
Yeah. So FPL Research now has a website, by the way.
Yeah, you are 1241. My God, that's crazy. This game.
Oh, holy
wait
shit.
a second.
Sorry.
Wait. What? He was top 10.
That's insane.
And rank 529. It says for me.
Is that the latest spreadsheet? Fair.
Oh no! Don't tell me! Oh, don't tell me this is not updated. This web page.
What's your ID?
65.
Oh, 65. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Crash?
529.
Oh no! Am I really?
529.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
fine.
that cannot happen. Like,
that is
that's
still
insane.
absolutely brutal, though. That truly is. Yeah.
Yeah, but Premier FPL tools, my rank is probably like I don't know, like 2 million or something.
Hey, it's never good to begin with, right?
Yo, shout out to Premier FPL tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, but
actually,
like one season crashed me from. I think I was like top. I think I was like 10 in
Yeah.
FPL research or something, 10 or 9. And this one season, and now I'm 529, and so I don't think I'm gonna make it back to those ranks anymore. But it's fine. Like before this season, like it like mattered to me that I keep this good rank and I keep this good run going. But now that it didn't happen, and now I feel like the pressure is off, and I don't really care anymore.
Mhm.
Of course, I want to get better rank, but it's not such a big deal anymore that I like stay humble. I guess is the point. So
Fair play. There was actually a good question on hits. I mean, how many hits did you guys take this season? Just to close it off.
1.
I took 5.
I took 1 hit.
I took 5, and my MD was mostly good. But to be fair, most of the hits are actually due to AM.
Yeah.
So I think generally, if I didn't do that DCL thing, as I said, I'm pretty confident I would have a pretty stellar season on MD. But I still finished in 2 digits in both. So yeah, I think you can take hits whenever you want. It does depend on your FT preferences. I think you can have a really good season whilst taking hits. Like I took a hit for remember when Bruno was suspended and then not, but then I jumped onto Palmer early. That actually worked really well for me on MD because I think Palmer's MD skyrocketed, and then I think people ended up buying quite late, whereas I just got a lot of MD from that point in time.
Also, Bruno got another red card against Wolves, so you skipped that. So
no. Were people holding him that long? I think people sold him eventually before.
Oh, okay. But I got him before that game, so I had him.
Yeah.
Game. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, that really.
My only hit of the season was Joe Pedro in the legendary Gameweek 34.
Oh my!
Because he managed to get that freaking ban.
Oh my! Yeah. I had to take that hit as well.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was the only hit of the season. So shout out to Joe Pedro as well. I would like to use some bad words, but I'm not gonna do it. So.
Actually, the worst thing is he kept like giving signals all season that he was going to do that. He kept hinting at it, like
that's true.
He got away with it like 2 or 3
football,
times.
Guys, come on.
That's insane.
Did you guys see how he took the glasses off that fat old guy? like that's a clear sign he's gonna go mental in a game.
That's true.
At some
Why
point.
didn't Cunha do that in Game Week 34? Why didn't he get a red card? It just sucks, man.
That's fair.
I can't believe I watch
That's
football.
fair.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. I'll see you guys next season.
Yeah. Let's see. 1 year from now.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Take care. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye.